Hello, it's Dr. Brian Mowll, the diabetes coach, certified and master licensed diabetes educator and IFM certified functional medicine practitioner. And I'm back today with another video blog. It's actually been quite a while since I've done one of these, so excited to be back with you. And today we're going to go over some tips for how to do cheat meals. So the first tip is to not call it a cheat meal. We actually use the term vacation meal rather than cheat meal. Cheat meal implies, obviously, cheating, which means that you're doing something wrong or going off your program, and that gives a sense of guilt, which can oftentimes lead to people going into a downward spiral. So we don't recommend using that term. We use the term vacation meal. And the key difference between a vacation meal and a cheat meal is that a vacation meal is planned. Which brings me to my next tip. So the next tip is to plan your vacation meal ahead of time. That means that instead of doing it spur of the moment, you say, this Saturday, I'm going to go have some ice cream with my family. And you plan that ahead of time. This way, it's part of your program. You're not cheating. It's a scheduled deviation from your normal diet. Otherwise, you get to Saturday, and let's say you're at a fair, and you say, oh, that ice cream looks really good. I think I'm just going to go ahead and have some. Now you've cheated, you've gone off your program in an unintended way, which actually weakens your spirit instead of strengthening your spirit. So you want to plan your vacation meals ahead of time, and that way you're in control and you actually get stronger rather than weaker when you deviate from your program. So before we dive into how to actually do a vacation meal, let's talk about if a vacation meal is right for you. So there's two situations where I do not recommend doing a vacation meal. Number one is if you are addicted to that food, if you have sugar addiction, carbohydrate addiction, dairy addiction, or specific type of food addiction like gluten, for example. If that's the case, I do not recommend eating those foods at all. It's much like a drug addict or an alcoholic. When you taste it, oftentimes it leads to a downward spiral where you want it again and again, and it becomes really hard to break that second time. The other situation I do not recommend doing vacation meals is if you're on a program like our Mastering Blood Sugar program or in our boot camp program, and you're making progress, you have a lot of momentum, you're doing really well. That's not the right time to do a vacation meal. You don't want to get off track on purpose. So stay on track and continue to make progress. A vacation meal is really for someone who has hit a maintenance phase or is sort of just moving along and doing really well, but not necessarily working towards any particular goal. That's a good time to start to institute vacation meals, which can start to expand your options a little bit, bring a little bit of variety back into your diet. So let's say you decide you are going to do a vacation meal. What are some of the foods that you should choose? Well, first of all, I recommend choosing something that's not in the house, something that's special, that you would go out and find at a restaurant or at a fair or an event or on vacation, rather than something that is in your refrigerator or in your cupboard that you're going to be tempted to go back and get again maybe the next day. So make it something special, make it something that you can't necessarily go get again very easily or quickly. The other thing I want to warn you about, and again I mentioned this a minute ago, but don't choose any food that you've ever been addicted to. If you've been addicted to breads or pastas or grains or beans or dairy products or something like that, that's not the right food to include in your vacation meal or have as a vacation food. Choose a food that doesn't necessarily have any strong power over you. Many people will ask me, how often should I or can I do a vacation meal? Well, I think anywhere between once a week and once a month. Once a week is about the most that I would do a vacation meal. And it's hard, if you're going to do this strategy, you're probably not going to want to go any less than once a month. So once a week to once a month, I think, is a good range. And it can vary from month to month. You may do 2 weeks in a row and then take a week off. And some of that can be based on sort of how you're feeling and how you're doing with your program. The last topic I want to talk about with vacation meals is recovery. Recovery is really important, and there's a few things that I want to go over. First of all, when you eat your vacation meal or vacation food, it's important to do it with the right foods around it. So you want to buffer that, especially if there's carbohydrates or sugar in the food. So let's say I'm going to have a bowl of ice cream or an ice cream cone. Well, it's important not to do that all by itself. You want to do that at the tail end of a meal, and that meal should include some protein, some healthy fat, and fiber. Those are the three best buffers for blood sugar. So healthy fat, protein, and fiber. You want to make sure all three of those are included in the meal, and then you can have your vacation food at the tail end of that or with that meal. That'll buffer the glucose absorption and lower that glycemic curve so you don't get that insulin surge and blood sugar spike from that vacation food. The next thing I'll recommend for recovery is if you're eating, again, some carbohydrate or something with sugar in it, I highly recommend doing some high-intensity exercise right after you eat that. So that could be a fast-paced walk or some air squats or walking lunges, something to actually burn up some of that extra sugar or carbohydrate with a little bit of high-intensity exercise. And the last strategy for recovery is what I call next meal. So after your vacation meal or vacation food, the very next meal should be really good and really well balanced. So make sure that next meal, whether it's lunch or dinner or breakfast the next day, is really good and well balanced. Balanced with high quality protein, healthy fat, and some low glycemic carbohydrate sources like fibrous vegetables. You could do a good well balanced protein smoothie, some eggs, something that's well balanced that's going to help to stabilize your blood sugar and bring you right back into that healthy metabolic state that you want to be in. Okay, well, I hope you guys found that information helpful and that answered your questions regarding cheat or vacation meals. This is Dr. Brian Mowll, the diabetes coach. Remember to keep climbing and to never give up. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.